The net zero dream is ending as reality hits. A few days ago, Scott Shepard of the National Center for Public Policy Research wrote a piece arguing that net zero is, quote, dead, because politicians across the world are retreating from their virtue-signaling utopias in the face of cold economic reality. Meanwhile, even big business is starting to reconsider the billions they are losing chasing the zero emissions fantasy. I mentioned in a recent video how politicians are beating a retreat on unreliables in the face of soaring energy costs that are hitting voters already angry about inflation. France recently reversed a ban on gas boilers, the UK delayed bans on residential heating, Sweden abandoned its net zero goal, and Germany will reopen coal plants in the wake of conservative victories in Bavaria and Hesse, driven by voter anger over energy prices. Norway is putting a fresh $18 billion into oil and gas fields, New Zealand's eco-fanatics just got voted out, and Dutch farmers are revolting against net zero and taking over provincial legislatures. Here at home, states including New York are cutting off wind projects who are trying to ramp up prices in a green energy bait and switch for the record books. When your crony utopia has lost the state of New York. That's all politicians, but now big business is starting to throw in the towel as well. I mentioned recently that investors are fleeing renewable energy funds. The entire sector has collapsed by a quarter in just 3 months. A big Danish operator just abandoned 2 offshore wind farms after losing $5.6 billion. Profits at China's dominant wind turbine maker just dropped 98%. And Siemens Energy hit a new lull as its products are failing to generate electricity at promised costs. In electric vehicles, the turnaround has been even more dramatic. I mentioned in another recent video how Ford lost $4.5 billion on EVs that nobody wants, while the looming juggernaut of cheap Chinese EVs has the industry in its crosshairs. Big car companies are finally waking up, with Mercedes' CFO recently predicting a shrinking EV market as they struggle to unload stock even with deep discounts. GM just delayed a new EV truck plant, canceled a joint venture with Honda to make EVs, and abandoned EV manufacturing targets altogether. Ford actually stopped sending EV trucks to dealers after some refused new shipments, given nobody is actually buying them, that despite cash rebates of $7,500. So Ford will simply renumber the 2023s as 24s and hope for the best. Incidentally, a recent study by the Texas Public Policy Foundation found that the full costs of powering an EV over 10 years, including depreciation, maintenance, and subsidies, is the equivalent of $17.33 per gallon. Of course, that's not counting the many Saturdays spent waiting at public chargers as gasoline Neanderthals joyfully speed past. There is one car company that is taking a victory lap, which is Toyota. They have been steadfast that EV demand just isn't there and Toyota will not be chasing it. They got a lot of heat in the left-wing media, but it turns out Toyota is the only one that did their duty to shareholders. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained. What's next is the $1 trillion green scam is running out of runway, both political and corporate. Rising interest payments and rising deficits will eat away at green subsidies, even as China's flood of cheap EVs guts Western makers. Green lobbyists are way too well paid to give up, but voters and shareholders are losing patience. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.